Welcome. Today we're going to be talking about what makes great art. And to do that, we must break it down into simplistic categories that are easily understandable. So there's a list that I came up with to get the point across, what makes a subjective work into something that is real, tangible greatness. The list goes something like this. The most important one is the story. And by that I mean the cultural story. When you create a work of art, there is an environment, a place in the world that this creation takes place, and it usually has some kind of compelling story associated with it when it reaches the public or goes into society. I think of paintings like the Mona Lisa, which became much more famous once it was stolen. Paintings by John Singer Sargent, like Madame X, was a very scandalous painting, and so that had a big impact in society. You see other things like that in Banksy's work, being politically driven and towing the line of illegality. That's the first and most important thing, is what does it mean to the outside world as a pursuit of creation? The second point on that list would have to be the emotional impact of the work. When you approach a painting and it is unanimous and agreed upon by everybody that that is a beautiful work of art, it usually pertains to some kind of feeling within. Those feelings are really brought out mainly by the story, but then secondarily by the underlying principles which are further down the list. And they all build up together harmoniously to create an emotional impact. These kinds of things can be color or realism, composition. We'll talk about those. But to make someone feel something is the most important thing art can do. That is the objective goal of art, and the story that takes precedence really comes from the society creating the art. Now, the third important piece to this is something that the world has never seen before, something unique. And usually that follows a personality, just is expressed that way, but something that is familiar but brand new. And when Cubism came out with Picasso, like, that took the world by storm. Monet with his Impressionism. So something brand new sparks excitement and taps into something unknown. That serves our adventurous side. You see in a lot of contemporary museums today, abstract form of art has come about the idea that, all this art has been done before, and we don't need to have it be representational. We have ideas to express through abstract art or just the presentation of it. And that is the most modern use of this. You see a whole new movement in art, and that unlocks something for people, and that makes it more interesting. That makes it exciting. So there's something there with the uniqueness of things, but not so unique that it takes out any kind of familiarity. Now that leads to the fourth point, which is arguably much more simple, which is just the scale or size of the work of art. And something, this is obviously talking about when you're there in the presence of it, rather than just looking at it over your phone or something like that. Everything pretty much ends up being the same size on your phone. So the scale of artwork has a larger impact when it is this triumphant, large piece. So murals on the side of buildings that cover the whole thing, there's an epicness to it. Its scale is grand, and so the feeling is grand. That's not to belittle the smaller works of art because they can still have all the other check marks on this list and basically be all but perfect. And then so something like the Starry Night is a great work of art because it has a uniqueness to it. It has a very emotional impact. There's a story behind it. There's all these elements, but it's a lot smaller. I don't think that makes it any less wonderful a work of art, but there's definitely a different impact and feeling when you're looking at something of a larger scale, like The Last Judgment by Michelangelo in the Sistine Chapel. Another point to that is that things that are life-size, like if it's a portrait of someone and it's life-size, that has another different kind of impact and feeling to it. We just like big things. That brings us to the next point, which is the story intended within the artwork. So this is different than the cultural story, the intention that the artist created with. So it is the story that they are trying to tell. And there's a spectrum from abstract to realism where these stories lie, or these form and representation lies within the canvas, within the painting. You have an idea and a vision going into the painting, and that is what is being represented on there. Even if it's just going into the painting for painting's sake, it is just to make art, there's still a story behind that, or there can be a story made from that. However, what I'm talking about specifically is having an idea and then representing it symbolically. A good example of that would be someone like Alex Gray with his psychedelic artwork. It's clearly an idea that can't be represented in a realism, in a realistic kind of way, but he uses symbolism to talk about his spiritual beliefs. And it is a story there. There's a story behind it that is unique to his perception. And a lot of people connect with that. So when you're looking at art, the next time you're in a museum or just at a friend's house, try to see it through this lens of understanding what makes this work great.